What's up? Welcome back to another episode of the CEO Pulse podcast, where you get the real, the raw, and the mind of entrepreneurship. This is another great session in the Mindset Monday series with my co-host, Justin Thorstad. I
like it.
That was the finale.
Hey, man.
That was the finale.
You definitely got my attention.
Oh, yeah. You were not expecting it, huh?
I was not.
You know what? It came up just like those insecurities that we often don't expect, but they still come at us, right?
And it just blindsided you.
You see what it did there?
Unexpected.
Yes. Yes. Very clever. I'm on it today. But yeah, fam, welcome back.
Is this how it's going to go?
Yeah, this is going to be the whole episode.
Hey, man, right here. Having fun, you misread the instructions.
Let's talk about insecurities, right? And the fact that sometimes we're not expecting things or emotions to just kind of bubble up to the surface, and yet they do. And when they do, they have this incredible way of rocking our world, and not necessarily the most productive, fashion.
And,
right?
and it's like water. It finds the lowest point. It finds the cracks, you know what I mean, to seep in and intrude, and all of a sudden you have a big problem.
Yeah.
Left unattended.
Yeah, you can ask the most confident person in the world, right? Yet, it's still going to happen. I think one of the comments or something that you said earlier makes a lot of sense, right? We're being stretched so far on the daily. We're pushing ourselves as we go through the process of life, not just entrepreneurship, but everything, right? Life, relationships, friends, and just anything that's the context of being new to our lives is going to push us, one step, further outside, whatever we already know. Yeah. And then it's incredible how good our brain is about getting back into that survival state and then throwing stuff on us or on top of us to really just, go to default mode thinking, right?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, listen, if someone says they're fearless or that they don't have insecurities, like, you're full of shit, man. Because now, let me rescind that. If a person does not have insecurities and where they are, it's because they're not continuing to move forward. They're not progressing. They're not moving into new experiences where their inadequacies are pointed out. And those insecurities and that self-doubt of, oh my gosh, this is really big. Am I enough? Do I deserve this? Am I worthy? Like, whatever the limiting belief is, we all have them to some degree at some level. And so if you're not experiencing those, it's probably because you are stagnant. And I'm going to say, if you're stagnant and you decide not to grow, inevitably you're headed for decay. Like, nothing's stable. It's all in a flux. You know what I mean? Like, everything is energy. Matter's held together by energy, and it's either growing or it's decaying. There's no stable. So if you're not experiencing those things, it's probably because you're headed for decay. And so I believe it's about reframing your relationship to it. You know what I mean? Like, some people, the problem is the insecurity pops up. You have the thought, right? And then you pay attention to it and you're like, oh, yeah, no, I do feel a little insecure, right? And then all of a sudden, since you're paying attention to that thought, you're feeding it energy. And what happens? You start feeling insecure. And then you feel another insecure thought and you feel more insecure. And it's just this cycle that perpetuates. It's actually like a spiral down. So,
well, that and also the fact that we start creating stories, right? I mean, next thing
Worst case,
it started with
stories.
a thought, and that thought linked into something, else, right? And you start seeing shadows where there's there's no shadows. It's full light.
Yeah.
And I think this ability that we have as human beings to just create story after story after story, and false evidence appearing real.
Yep.
It's a very, very common thing, right? If we don't have a really good grip on that kind of stuff, I think insecurities and it's gonna. Let me spoiler alert. The solution to this whole thing is really coming to grips with the fact that we are worthy, right? It's not what the end conversation. I guess the conversation today is not what the end point is. It's really how does it get triggered, and how do we navigate that map as we're going through it, right? Because it's easier to say, okay, I mean, just come to grips with yourself and understand that you're worthy. Understand that, this is something that's going to happen because you're putting yourself out of the comfort zone. We've talked about that in the past.
Yeah.
I feel like the one thing that we haven't really gone deep enough into is how do these thoughts come about? How, what do they look like? What do they sound like? What do they feel like? More importantly, how do they steer us on the daily, right? Fixing them is one thing, but just being able to recognize them is a whole different challenge.
Yeah.
It can be it can throw you in a whole different direction and never get you to that point of where you ask yourself, okay, the insecurities are coming up, but I am worthy. I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And you see yourself, right, as a being.
Yeah, so. But you're absolutely right, because when those come up, people go, oh yeah, I'm supposed to think I'm worthy, and it doesn't work, right? Yeah. And you got to ask yourself, why is that? And you said earlier about stories. Like, it would serve people to realize that your belief systems are just that. They're a bunch of stories. You made it up. Whether you feel confident or you feel insecure, whether you feel competent or insufficient, it's just a story you've been telling yourself. Yeah. And so if we get to tell ourselves a story, and if we replay it over and over, it takes root. Why not make it a beautiful story? Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So how it comes up. I mean, I think first of all, like, an ounce of prevention is worth more than a pound of cure. You know what I mean? And so with that being said, it's like, why don't you
like that. Say it again.
An ounce of prevention is worth more than a pound of cure. Like, sometimes it's too little too late.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it could have been avoided. Now, with that information, you can prepare for next time instead of playing ignorant, like, oh, that'll never happen again. I'm fearless. Yeah. Like, no, it's going to happen again if you're moving forward, if you're progressing, if you're successful. And so knowing that, okay, I'm not done growing. I'm not done building. I mean, growing internally and building externally. So that means then I'm going to come up against more insecurities. Like, these thoughts are going to pop up when I least expect it. So I'm going to predict that that's going to happen. You know what I mean? Okay, so that's first and foremost. So I'm looking for it. Now, when it does pop up, it feels really crummy. Like, if you just notice how you feel low energy, maybe your shoulders are slumped over, breathing high, in the chest and shallow. Like, just pay attention to your body, and like, you'll notice. Like, just check in with your body and how you feel. Like, you are in this thing, right? So pay attention. But also, you'll notice the thoughts. Like, the thoughts and the feelings, they're interconnected. They're not separate. It's the mind-body connection. And so just paying attention to your state. And if you're not sure what your state is, like, check in with your attitude. It's just how you think and how you feel. Attitude, state. I think one's driven by the other.
Well, no, absolutely. And they do hold hands.
Yeah. And, long walks on the beach together.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they'll fuck you up at the same time, just the same too. So
Yeah.
So ego, I mean, it's wrapped around all of this, right? The insecurities is a portion of it. It's our ego screaming at us.
Yeah. Well, thank God for that. Because I think when the ego, which I equate that to the unobserved part of the mind, is like screaming at us, like, don't do that, da-da-da. And by the way, like, a little bit of fear is healthy, I think. It's like skepticism. Like, you don't just buy something at face value, and that's called naive. Do you know what I mean? So to scrutinize something, to be scared in a situation, it's like, you got to think about this. Typically, insecurities pop up when you walk into a new experience, uncharted territory. I've never been here before. I've never experienced this before, and I don't know what to expect. Now, if you go back to, like, the limbic part of the brain and our primal selves, like, that fear keeps you alive because it keeps you, like, present. It keeps you paying attention. Like, is there danger here where I can die? Yeah. And I want to live. So it's survival. You know what I mean? So it's not a bad thing. It's not to be suppressed, repressed, or covered up, swept under the rug. Actually, it's pointing you in the direction of where your development still is, if you think about it. So when that voice is like, wait a minute, whoa, you're going to suck. What if you've messed it? You know what I'm saying? Like, all those things pop up. It's like, ooh, great. That's my ego. And it's pointing me in the direction where I need to shine some light on there, some attention, and be like, what is this? Let me be with it. Why is this coming up?
That's a great point, man. I think, and this is almost, I mean, now it's my go-to, right? I don't want to say default thinking, because default thinking is is always going back to the original thought process or thought patterns. They at least for me, they haven't gone away.
No.
Right?
No.
Like, so
They
for
just get
example, you have
quieter.
stuff that it's not panning out right. It's like you start to get insecure. You start to get, questions around inside your head that are just bouncing all over the place, and confusion kicks in. And that's a default, stuff that we have to deal with on a regular basis. Now, my proactive side takes that and then it starts asking the question, where is this coming from? And I start breaking it down. I start becoming more aware of it. I start really questioning the situation and then seeing me, right? Mm-hmm. And then seeing that as something that's happening, outside of me, and what the byproduct of me, staying on that track can be. So, I mean, there's a couple of things that happened, or that happen whenever something like this triggers just my thinking. But the biggest question is, where is this coming from? Why is it bothering me so much? And sometimes, I mean, if you're listening or watching, ask yourself the question, when was the last time something simple bothered the hell out of me and it just took my peace for an hour, 2 hours, a full day? And you can't really pinpoint it. You don't understand why it bugs you, but it bugs you. Whenever you see that one person and it bugs you in a very particular way, why? Right?
Yeah.
And what is it calling to? That kind of stuff, right? But I feel like having direction over insecurities, and I want to say direction, not control, right? Because
Sure. What the hell do you really control?
yeah, and it's it has a lot to do with that, right? It's what's the essence of you? Where is really where's that thought really originating from? And that's a question that we often forget.
Yeah.
I often forget. I used to forget to ask myself all the time.
Yeah, and if you're not sure the answers to those questions that Raf's talking about, like you're like, well, I don't know where it came from. I don't know why it's here. Da, da, da. Okay, fine. You sit with it. You know what I mean? You become aware of self. However, if you're not able to answer those questions, you could always just go to the very simplistic. Break it down. Is how I'm thinking and how I'm feeling right now about this supporting me, and will it work for me to move forward and be successful? And obviously the answer is no. How could it, right? So it's funny you bring this up, man, because actually I just had a flashback of late last night before I went to bed. This thought came up and I started entertaining it, and then I noticed I was doing that, and I stopped for a minute. I go, wait a minute. If I continue to think that thought and feed it my attention, it's going to grow and it's going to consume me. And that's not what I want. Like, it's going in the opposite direction. Okay, so it's like, I think most people's natural tendency when that happens and they become aware they're doing it is to then go to beat up of, oh, I did it again. Why do I always do that? I self-sabotage. And it's like, that's just more of that thought. I mean, they're both rooted in fear.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, so you got to neutralize the energy, meaning get to a place of not like rebuttaling it, but acceptance.
I think it's that. I mean, acceptance for sure. And I think it's understanding. If you put understanding into the mix, I feel like it's really what creates that strong foundation, right? Because we can self talk, we can do all the positive affirmations we want, we can do all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
And that's kind of like the if you ask me, that's a shortcut to getting things solved. But a lot of times these emotions, these feelings will come back sooner than later, right? And they're unresolved.
Yeah.
Why? Because there wasn't really understanding in the first place.
So exactly. So last night when that insecure thought came up, here's my top life hack for confronting and dealing with insecurities. Acceptance. So I'll tee it up for you. The thought came in.
Wait, that was it. No.
Yeah, but I'm going to explain it.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Acceptance.
I thought you were gonna do like a little song leading up to it.
It's none of it's premeditated.
There was more dramatic.
Right.
Or take a pause.
Climax and then
climax,
cliffhanger,
take a pause,
and then boom.
Acceptance.
Yeah,
or something like that. You know what I mean? Delivery was. I mean, very very solid concept. I agree.
Delivery is weak.
Is the key. Yeah, delivery.
Well,
we need to work
you
on
get
that.
the fucking
but
point.
you know what? Just accept it, bro.
Yeah, I'm good with it.
Oh, see what I did there again?
He's really on one today, isn't he?
Ooh, so good.
Thank God we're almost done.
So good. So good.
I had this thought come in. I was entertaining it a little bit. I noticed I was doing that, and I just stopped. And I was like, wait a minute. So what? What if that does happen? So what? if reality unfolds in a manner that is not what I wanted, who gives a damn? Because it's not within my control to say. Like, I don't get to decide. However, I do get to decide how I want to be with it. And being with it, like, can only be acceptance. I mean, that's the only positive outcome to have the highest and best. If you're in resistance to that thing, great, go ahead and fight it. See what's going to happen. You know, we've fought the war on drugs. Drugs are winning. We fought the war on cancer. Cancer's winning. You know what I mean? Like, what you resist persists. Yet when you get to that place of acceptance and neutral, now you become present with it, objective, and you can respond with actual solutions to provide like a course correction. Otherwise, if you're in resistance, man, it's like, I got the gas, you got the matches, let's go. You're just causing more problems. So not only are you not helping the situation, but you're contributing to that which you say you don't want. And so, like, just acceptance. Like, I've shared my story about when I first started Libertas, over 5.5 years ago. And the doubt came in, like, oh shit, I got everything on the line here. What if I fuck up? What if it fails? What if I go bankrupt? Like, I don't want to file bankruptcy. All this shit. And my buddy's like, so what if it does? What are you going to do? Like, what are you talking about? What am I going to do? Don't you hear yourself? Like, I'd have nothing. I'd be homeless. He's like, yeah, man, chill on my couch. We'll get you a bicycle. You'll figure it out. And I was like, damn, he's kind of got a point. I don't want to hear that. And I sat with it of like, okay, put myself on his couch. I'm riding a fucking bike. Like, I can always go back to any old job, minimum wage. I could do that. They'll take me. Yeah. I'm qualified. You know what I mean? And I got to a place where it's like, yep, if that is actually what unfolds, that's the end result, I can handle that. Okay, now, what's got power over me? Nothing. Like, nothing's going to hold me back because I can accept the worst case scenario. Because, like you have any say-so anyways, any control over that. You know what I mean? Like, today, the economy could crash and no one's buying or selling real estate. In fact, everyone's losing their houses and blah, 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 blah. Like, the worst case scenario could unfold at any moment in time.
Yeah.
What are you going to do about it? You know what I mean? Yeah, I got cash reserves. I can last a long time. But if it's inevitable, like, what are you going to do about it? Cry, fight, resist? Like, the more quicker you become present with the situation and see the reality for what it is, the more, like, solutions will present themselves. And you can course correct and create something different. Like, who gives a fuck?
Yeah. So
why so attached?
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. Well, I think it's easy to get attached. Why? Because we're always talking, preaching, visualize. We're always, talking about, the ideal, life that we're looking for, right? So it's almost like it can be, it can feel like a duality. It can feel like a conflict of interest.
Yeah.
Right?
Well,
hold on. Let me go through this. But it can feel like that. When we're pushing the idea of, okay, create the vision you want, do this, do that, and then we get enamored with it. We get so such a stronghold on this track that we want to go to, and then we get hit with something else. I think we almost train ourselves to push things and I guess push ourselves away from acceptance. Why? Because we're trying to wire the end result. Now, the thing that I've learned through the entire process of just life, it's that we can create this vision, right? We can still have this beautiful, roadmap of what our life can bring to us in terms of possibilities, experience, action, love, results. Now, when something hits it, I used to be the first guy that wanted to hit it back.
Oh yeah.
And like, no, things are gonna pan out this way. Like, this is what I have in my head. This is the way it's supposed to be.
Oh yeah.
But I think, and I think, you phrased it, phenomenally with acceptance. I feel, because it's the precursor, right? Like, acceptance is it's ground zero for change and getting out of friction. What happens? Acceptance. You move on to understanding. Then you move on to choice. Then you move on to actions, right?
Totally.
But acceptance is at the base of it.
So 100%, but I want to address something too that you brought up is like, to compound the situation for what you just explained, as entrepreneurs, like, when people build something, it becomes like their baby, right?
Yeah.
And they protect it with everything they got.
Oh.
Okay. Now you're just making the situation worse, because here's the thing with visualization, meditation, like a morning ritual, even if you do it afternoon and evening, whatever your process is. Like there's a big difference between intention and attachment. Do you know what I'm saying? Like when I sit down to visualize and I write out my gratitude, I'm setting an intention of the perfect end result. Yet I don't give a damn how it unfolds. Because if you could conceive of, because that's what you're talking about, the attachment of the how. Like I want this to happen and that to happen, and I don't want this and I don't want that. It's like now you're attached not only to the end result, but how it needs to unfold. What the hell do you know? Because if you've never achieved a thing before, you've never built that business before, how the hell do you know how it's going to unfold? You've never experienced it. And frankly, why do you give a damn? As long as you get to the end result, why do you care? So long as it was legal, moral, ethical, right? It was win-win. Okay, great. But why would it be anything else if you were coming from abundance? Side note, So, like, I'm very clear with my intention, yet I'm not attached to its creation because there might be something that my lower level of ignorance, human, created, and there's a higher and better result available for me. And if I'm so attached to this, like, I might miss what else is there. So I have a clear intention of a no less than or a bare minimum, but I don't care how and what the highest and best result is because it's going to unfold for my benefit. Why? Because I'm present with it. I allow it to unfold. I don't try to force, coerce, and manipulate and control it. But I used to.
Yeah. I mean, and again, I think that's what creates the most friction, right?
My way.
Yeah, exactly.
For some reason, it's the best way.
Like I know best.
Shit.
I just, I learned to embrace the fact that I just don't know what I don't know.
Yeah. And the more I learn, man, the more I realize I don't know shit.
Yeah. Here's it's almost okay. Here's catch-22, right? We're setting intentions. We're setting, this path, right? That we want to just create and go through and everything. And something goes south. Something doesn't pan out, the way that we think it would.
Inevitably.
That's when insecurities bubble up.
Yeah.
Right? So they come back and they sabotage the same path that we're trying to build.
Yeah.
Through these actions and these choices, and those insecurities have the power to really just steer you off the boat. How many people do you see jumping ship, man, when they've been at it and trying to build a company, a business, in my world, wholesaling for a week, 2 weeks, like, no, this thing, it doesn't work. Like, shit. I mean, those are insecurities talking to you in the exact same fashion that something positive, something empowering can talk to you.
100%. It's a story,
and what
right?
happens? We choose to listen to those things because it's often easier.
Yeah, you're feeding it. And so you're right. It is easier. It's the path of least resistance.
Yeah.
And so I just reframe my relationship to insecurities. Like when they pop up, thank you. Thanks for showing up. Like it's a gift. It's a gift and the form of an opportunity to have the awareness of what attachments do I still have? Why am I making this about me? Like, if you think you don't have insecurities, why don't you book an event and get up in front of several thousand people and talk? Like those are bound to come up in your face and you'll want to throw up and da-da-da-da. Why? Well, because it's me. And I need everyone's approval and they need to like me and they need to applaud and me. Like, wait a minute. What the fuck you got to say to contribute of value to them? Why don't you make it about that? And then your ego doesn't need to be involved. Like, it's not about you. It's about your contribution. So make it about them, right? So same thing with insecurities. I'm building my business. Something goes south, right? I hit that roadblock. I don't know what to do. And now I could lose it all. Da-da-da-da. Of course insecurity is going to come in. Why is that a problem? And thank them. Okay. So what is there here for me to learn about myself, about the situation, so that even if this does completely implode, next time I go at it for a different business, I'm going to be better resourced. Yeah. I've been here before.
Well, now you have a few rounds in the ring, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's why is it something that should take my attention away? I mean, that's important. It's a very important statement. More importantly, why is it something that should take your intention away from whatever you're pursuing, right?
That's weird.
Insecurities are going to happen. They're going to happen every single day. They're going to happen, twice in the morning, 3 times in the evening, and then, right before you go to bed. They're always going to be there. I think that the power, the illusion of having, power and utter control over the mindset portion of our lives. Like I honestly think it's a fallacy. Why? We're wired to question things. We're wired to look for, like you said earlier, right? Danger. We're wired to see stuff that might be, come to hurt us in the future or whatever, right? So it's normal for that stuff to bubble up.
In fact, it's like, thank God we have that, right? Because it keeps
would've
us
died,
alive.
like, a long time ago.
Yeah, and I've seen some of the food you eat. I'm surprised you're still alive.
Don't worry about it.
But I like what you said about it's the first time getting in the ring. It brought to mind like one of my favorite quotes from Mike Tyson, of all people, is like, everyone's got a great plan until they get punched in the face. You know what I mean? It's like, you got in the ring to play and you thought you were going to get hit?
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
Come on, let's go.
Yeah. And so, those things are going to come up, right? And it comes back to what I feel is the number one skill for humans. Number one, there's nothing more important than this: emotional regulation. It's not that these things aren't going to come up. It's what do you do when it does?
Yeah.
Can you regulate yourself? Can you stay present? Can you control you? Not reality. That's not happening. But I do control me.
Yeah.
I may react, but if I notice it through practice, I can course correct. I can shift. I can wait until I'm regulated in order to respond.
And it's not going to be easy, right? It's not going to be easy, but it feels really good when you know that you would have reacted in a whole different way. And when you see yourself, handling, some type of emotion, handling some type of insecurity, handling some type of, situation. And then you tell yourself, like, fuck, it's like 5 years ago, this would have exploded. I would have lost my shit. Yeah. I would have lost my shit.
I would have burned it down.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I think that matters, and that's important to understand. So ask yourself the question: are you still in the same emotional space or emotional intelligence space, or like you framed it, emotional regulation space that you were 5 years ago? If so, I mean, something's got to give, because you're in the ring right now.
Well, and why are you expecting different results if you're not changing?
If you're listening to this podcast, it's not because we're like great looking. It's because you're in the ring. It's because you're in the ring right now, dealing, with entrepreneurship, dealing with the day-to-day changes, right? Wanting to have, that ability to grow and just, create context around different things, different mindsets. That's what we're here for, right? Now ask yourself the question: can it only be done from the outside in, or does it begin, inside of me? Does it begin through my own awareness of where do I stand, right?
As within, so without.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Our reality is just out picturing what we expect to see.
So yeah, I mean, it's again, it's easier said than done, I think. But when you get to a point where, like, shit, I'm proud of how I handled that.
Oh man, that's the greatest stuff ever.
It can be scary. It can throw you off. You're not gonna feel 100%. It's gonna throw you off for sure, right? Yeah. But then that passes. That too shall pass, and then you get back on them.
Respond differently instead of your old past self reacting and burning it to the ground or whatever the unhealthy behavior was. You just got to realize, like, first of all, you do that because we feel this emotion, and that's energy. That's what emotions are: emotion, energy, emotion, right? Yeah. And when that energy comes up, when we can't handle it, when I can't handle it, what do? We got to discharge it some way, and it's going to be the point of the weakest link, and that's where it's going to go. Yeah. We got to get rid of it. And so when you can sit with it and experience it completely, and then you respond differently, man, there's your proof. There's your proof that you took the information and you implemented it, you integrated it, and you caused a different state of being. And like, you should be proud of that. Yeah. That means you're making progress. That means you're actually growing. Because, man, how many people have you met that have been through personal development, and then you look at them, their relationships, and their life, and the results are just the same as before they went through personal development?
Default thinking.
Yeah, those are
default thinking is not always a good thing.
Exactly. There's a difference. Like, people go to personal development and people go through personal development. And the two are night and day different when it comes to results. Like, you've got to, it's not enough to know. You got to know how. And you can only get the know-how knowledge through the experience of it, which means you got to act with it. Like, It's the only way to know. Experience it completely. So if you don't do that, if you're not willing to do that, or you're still identifying with the old story that I'm not capable, like, cool.
Yeah.
Then change your script and what you talk about with people, and go to work on it. Because what the fuck else you got to do? That's a better use of your time.
Yeah. I like it, man. Insecurities, very real thing. They happen all the time, all
Embrace
day, every
it.
day. And it's not one of those things that you're gonna outgrow. Like it's really like, I don't know. I'm waiting until I turn 18 so I don't have insecurities. I'm waiting until I turn 100 years old so I don't have insecurities. No, they're always gonna be there.
Absolutely.
Also, 100-year-old lady, there's gonna
And
be.
why is that a
insecurities.
problem? Yep.
So it's about getting the faster that you get to a point where you understand that you have the ability to create some personal power around that kind of stuff, right? Beginning through acceptance, following to understanding, following through choice, and then taking action or whatever needs to be done, right? But it's a proactive way of dealing with something that's going to happen anyways.
Yeah.
As opposed to going to default thinking, going to default habits, default reactions,
Totally.
letting ego take over your mind and fuck up your shit. It's not, it takes a couple of breaths, yes.
Yeah.
And you're gonna get punched a couple of times, maybe in the throat, but we have the ability to come up on top whenever we get hit with insecurities.
Yeah, and I'll wrap up what I have to say with this, and that's those insecurities, they're not happening to you. Like, you're not a victim, right? You're doing it. The question is, what part of me? Because me, the one in there, noticing this, that one has complete control over that mind and that body and can direct it. They're tools. They're instruments of my consciousness. So it's also to realize that if I'm feeling insecure, it's just my mind coming up with stories. Why am I listening?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, love it. Fam, I hope you found that useful. And do us a favor. If you like the content that we put for you together every single week, like it, share it, subscribe to it if you haven't done so. I don't know what you would be subscribed. Comment. It's a two-way street. It's a two-way conversation. So let us know what you guys want to talk about. We'll open it up, and I mean, we'll just have great combos about that kind of stuff, deep dives. All right. With that being said, Justin, where can somebody get a hold of you?
Yeah, JustinThorstad.com, social media, or my phone number, 602-348-8534.
Woo, fire! Follow me on social media. I'm pretty active on all platforms at Rafael Cortez CEO. And again, make sure you subscribe. Send this out to somebody you think might benefit from it. We'll catch you on the next one. Stay focused. You got this. Bam!